I finally did it. It's just being fussy because it's Zoom.
We're both
StreamYard is so
recording.
much better. You got to do StreamYard.
Really? Do you know what?
I
I have
love
I've been
StreamYard.
on StreamYard on other shows, and
I love it.
I've had a few difficulties with it. I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
I'm sure
Oh,
it's great. I mean,
no.
and I'm Zoom works for me, so I've not.
Zoom is good, but if you lose your stuff, so this happened to me for real.
Yeah,
I had a bunch of downloads and I'd renamed them. And I renamed them like Julia or your name or my name, whatever name.
yeah.
And then they're gone forever. If you push erase
Oh,
downloads, they are gone. And I was
really?
like, holy crap. And I
That's not
couldn't get them
cool.
back. I
That's
know. I
not
was
cool.
so sad.
So what I
I
do
lost a few.
once I finish recording, I save it to my computer, and then I
Yeah.
move it from my computer to like a hard drive as well. So I've got it in three different places.
Okay. You're smart.
So,
That's
but
smart. I should have done that. I had a
because
hard drive that I was moving things to, but it stopped and I had to get a new one. And
oh
so they were
really?
just on here. I
Yeah.
have a new one now, let me tell you.
Technology, man. Technology.
Oh my
Especially when you're
gosh, it's
talking
so
about this
stupid.
stuff. I feel like they play with you. They don't like you talking about
Oh,
conspiracy.
it's so true.
There's definitely a bit of a, yeah,
It's truth. That is
dodgy.
so true. Yeah. Well, and I mean, same with, I think there's certain ones of us that are on lists, and I'm pretty
Oh,
sure I'm on a
yeah.
list.
Yeah. Yeah. You're on a list,
Uh,
Heidi.
I know.
I
Every
think
time I
I
talk
am.
to Brandon Kroll got me on the list. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
I
because
think we're
he
all on the
every
list.
time, yeah, they know who we are. They're coming for
100%.
us.
100%. My
Later
name's
on, they're gonna be like, chop your head off.
every now and again I act like well, they are listening, that's for sure. And I say
Yeah.
things to try and throw them off like, "Oh, I don't believe this conspiracy stuff, you know. I
Yeah.
let my Alexa hear that every now and again.
Every now I don't. I'm like, hey, NSA, are you listening to us? And then
Yeah,
Amazon's like, no.
of course not.
What are you talking about?
Oh, they definitely
Says
are.
the NSA guy. Yeah, no, they're
100%.
not dumb. For
No.
sure not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny.
And we're on the
No, but
list.
I've yeah, I knew. I mean, I knew going into this. They already know where I'm at. They
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
As a nurse, they know where I'm at. I'd have to quit.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to quit my job. Like,
The thing is, I don't
that's
know how, because I think there is definitely a list for people that look into this stuff and talk about this stuff. But I mean, because I've not been doing
you're
the
on the list because
podcasting
you're a
too long.
Nephilim.
Yeah,
You're a
I'm a Nephilim.
Nephilim.
I am
You
definitely
got
got.
red hair.
I have. It's in the bloodline, that's for sure. And I got my DNA tested as well, so they've got all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's not
me
not.
too. Well, I
Yeah,
didn't know back then. I didn't
same,
know.
same.
I was like, oh, cool. Fit in the
I
tube.
just I just wanted to find out if I was a Viking or
Oh.
not, and that's
And you're
why.
like, I'm a Viking
And
Nephilim.
I am a Viking Nephilim. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
But
I know.
yeah,
I was like, I'm Indian? What?
yeah, it's
I'm
mad.
super pale,
It's
but
so
I
interesting though.
I kind of knew because my Mormons, they do all their genealogy. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
No, I
And
didn't
so
know
they're
that.
crazy. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's maybe somewhat weird angel stuff too. We should do, did I do John D for you? I can't remember. Or did I just do
I
Mormonism?
think you did.
Did I talk about
My
John D?
yeah, my memory's so
So
bad though.
I do too many. I don't know how many you're doing, but I do like this is my second one today.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes your brain, it's all
100%.
over
And
the
it all
place.
mixes together as well. That's the other thing.
It does.
I record most nights, so I'm talking to
Yeah.
sometimes two people a day, sometimes at least one person a day,
One, at
normally.
least one. I
So it
try to do
does.
one because
Yeah.
it gets too much.
Yeah.
Because if
For
you're
sure.
researching, oh my gosh, then you can't. I
Yeah.
can't be researching if I'm going to go talk about Nephilim with you and like something completely different, unless it's Mormons, because I was one and I could
Yeah.
do that show
That's
all
just
day.
there.
I'm like, that's fine. We can talk about
Because
Mormons.
then
'Cause-
you've got edit, and then you've got to promote the
Yeah.
show yourself as well.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
so
it's
much
so much
time,
stuff,
man.
huh?
Great though.
How long have you been doing it? I do like it though. I'm like
I've
you.
I've
Yeah.
been doing this podcast now for a year and a half, maybe no longer than that.
Okay.
It's got to be longer than that now.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, two years in June is when I first
Oh,
put the
wow.
first
See?
episode. Yeah,
You're
I
like
love it.
me. Well, I only have been doing this since May. I have not even been a year.
Wow, wow,
And
very fresh.
I didn't even know I was going to do this. Like, this was like, are you drinking coffee like me or are you drinking
I've
tea?
I've actually got tea.
Ah, of
Yeah,
course you do.
in the UK we all drink tea. I do drink coffee as well, but
I love coffee
tea
now.
right now.
I have to have the coffee because I couldn't have it for so long. I have to make up the years that I couldn't
Yeah.
have coffee.
Oh, really?
Well, you can't drink coffee if
Oh, of
you're a
course you
Mormon,
can't. Yeah.
and you can't have tea. All the good things
You can't have tea.
you can't do it. You can't have coffee, tea, alcohol. We
Wow.
could do another Mormon episode sometime. Don't you worry
Yeah,
about it.
we'll have to do that.
I got stuff for days
That's for sure.
on Mormons. They got weird, so much weird stuff.
So when you first got into it, you
Oh,
didn't realize you was going to be doing the
I was
podcasting.
never gonna. I literally. Are you pretty Christian or no? I don't know where you
I am a
stand.
Christian. Yeah, I believe in
Okay,
God, Jesus.
so I believe in God. I don't go to church. I just love the
Yeah,
Bible. That's all.
yeah.
And so, because fool me once, right? I already did that. I already went to church for all my life. Like you're not doing it again. So, and I'll go. I mean, but not to Mormon one. But
Yeah.
anyways, so Josh Monday was one of my favorite podcasters. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, that name rings a
Flat
bell.
Earth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flat Earther.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yep, and get him on. He's great. His shows do great. He's really fun,
Cool.
and he used to be a rapper, and so
Oh, okay.
he kind of almost spits his show. It's really kind of cool. He
Wow.
doesn't mean to. He doesn't mean to. It's just like you can tell,
Yeah.
like he's like and da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, I
He's
can
got
see
that.
it.
He's got that
And so,
rap in
yeah,
him.
yeah, it's so funny. So I loved him and I saw his show and I said, oh, I'm going to tell him about this school that's like a weird, I should tell you this one. This would fit with your audience. And so would one other story I have. But it's a weird school that's a public school and it's in Salt Lake City and they filmed High School Musical there and the Disney show, you know? Well, we went there because somebody told us it is demonic in there and it is a public school. And I'm like, they didn't hang demonic shit in the school. Like, I was like, get out of here. And they're like, no, you got to go. So I go, I think maybe one picture, like one bad picture by the art or something. No, there was pictures every 6 inches for 3 levels of this building that were like demon dogs doing it and like weird stuff. And I've got pictures. Like
In the school.
I was going through the school taking, I mean, they do okay, so they do tours because it was in the Disney. So I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the tour, but I'm like doing my own tour, right?
Wow.
I'm taking pictures of crazy shit. They notice that I'm like not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And they're giving me crusty looks and whatever. So I send it all to Josh and I'm like, this is bad. And then all of the pictures are recreations that are from like 60s weird art. Like there's one art scene where a guy is eating a guy's spine out while they're having a big orgy and it's just screwed. Like
Oh,
dude,
this
it's
is in a
bad.
school.
And a demon, oh, and it's got a lizard head and like it's just creepy.
Wow.
And so I sent it to him and I said, this is screwed up. You need to do something like on this because this is a Christian, podcast. So here. And he sends me back a voice message. And remember, I'm not a podcast. I'm a mom, just a nurse, just a lady. And he's like, you got to come on. And I was like, no way. Are you insane? Like, I'm a mom and just a lady. Like, you're a podcaster. You do it. He says, no, you do it. I don't know anything about there. And I live clear in California. And I was like, no. And he's like, please. And so I thought, oh my gosh, how am I even going to do that? All I had is my phone and my son's like puzzle light for his puzzles. And I was like, no.
Wow.
And he's like, just come on. So I do. He's like, you've got a lot of pictures, it's a good presentation. So I do it. And he's like, in the middle of the show, I said something about Mormons. And he goes, wait, you're a Mormon? And I'm like, no, not anymore. And he's like, you have to come back and talk about Mormons. And I was like,
Wow.
why? And he's like, because people want to know about Mormons. I'm like, well, remember, I live in Utah. I'm like, everybody knows this stuff. And he's like, nobody knows this stuff. He's like, please. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I came on, talked about Mormons, and he's like, your show, he sent me a message. He's like, your show went crazy. He's like, it went
Wow.
super viral. He's
Yeah.
like, you got to come back again. And I was like, all right. And so I came back on and he's like, you just need to do your own show. He's like,
Yeah.
people like it. And so I
Yeah.
did.
Well, you're a
That
natural.
was
You're
it.
a natural.
Yeah. I was shook. I was scared. And then starting to interview the people that you look up to, too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the scariest shit ever. Like,
100%. And
oh
you're
my
trying to hold it
gosh,
together. You're trying to hold it together. You know roughly what you're going to say. And you're like, you don't want to
it's
come
still
across
bad.
like you're
I was like an
intimidated.
idiot. like
Isn't
an
it?
idiot, Yeah. I'm like, I did L.A. Marzulli. You know who he is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I did him last week and I
Wow.
was so
That's
fucked
cool.
up. Like, I was so scared. I forgot to push record
No. Did you
only
record in
for
the
a
end though?
minute. I
Yeah, that's
caught it.
cool.
I caught it. I looked up and I went, "Oh my gosh, do I tell him?" Like I know there's this part that I edited out that was like, "Shit." Like you could just see it on my face and I was like, just do it. Just push the button and
Yeah.
don't say nothing. And so I did and then it was fine.
That's what's so cool about the paranormal and the conspiracy
Gosh.
community is that
Yeah.
you can reach out to these people. You can get
It's weird. They're like famous
heroes.
and they'll still do it. Yeah.
It's
They'll still
amazing.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gary Wayne was intimidated. That one scared me. Speaking of Nephilim.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Wayne's interview was crazy. But I think L.A. Marzulli's was more scary because he's so busy. He's like,
Yeah.
I have exactly 42 minutes. And I was like,
Wow.
shit. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Wah."
I'm
But
I'm
it was
reading one of his
fine.
books at the moment. He's all
He'll come on. He's really good. He's
yeah,
really great. He's a
he's a cool
great
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
And Ryan Pitterson, he's really good. He's wrote Judgment of the Nephilim. So he's been
Interesting.
on, and Laura Sanger, she's been on. They're not out yet. Well, Ryan's is, but the other two,
Yeah.
Laura's will be out Sunday. I kind of
So,
staggered them because
yeah.
you don't want to shove it all out
Put it
at
all out in
once.
one go.
But
Yeah. Well, there's a
yeah,
there's a lot of good shows coming in for
yeah,
sure.
I'm so excited. So it's
Interesting.
been fun, but I like where I'm like a weird fit kind of because I'm like Mormons, everybody is like, oh, well, cults can go with Bigfoot or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It can go over there. And then there's murders, there's like Mormon murders. And
Yeah.
so the murder people will sometimes have me. So it's kind of fun. I get to
Yeah.
travel.
Well, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, that is for
It's
sure.
fun.
And you've
You
only been
travel
doing it
though
since May.
too. Yeah. No, you do more than just like only cryptids. You do other
Oh
stuff too.
yeah, yeah. I,
So
I like to get into all the paranormal and
it's cool.
bit
Yeah.
of conspiracy and all weird stuff. I love everything freaky and weird and
I
yeah,
have a freaky show, but I have to put it together. I have to do pictures with it because it will be more compelling. But there is one show with my daughter that I did. I did an audio of it. And when you have a free moment, I don't know if you will, because I get how it goes with shows. But there's one called Minerva Madness, and it's on my mind. And it's a true story. And it really happened to us in Italy. And
this
I
is what I wanted to
truly,
ask you.
yes, I can talk about it,
Can we
but I
talk
don't
about
have
that? On
pictures. Yeah, we
that's
can do
cool.
Nephilim
That's
another
cool.
day.
No, we can
Yeah,
still.
I
Well,
mean,
is it?
or
Oh, is
still
it?
both or whatever. But
Oh, is it? Is
this
it?
is like this is more demonic.
Wow, I did want to get
And
into
so,
that with you. So I did
but we
have,
can do both. We can do both.
if
I
that's
don't care
cool.
where it goes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't care.
Awesome.
I never care.
Awesome.
I'm always like,
We don't
whatever.
plan, and that's the other thing with this show is I don't really plan what we're going to. I
Right.
roughly know what we're going to talk about, but it can go anywhere. So
It can go anywhere. Yeah, that's how we did. Hold on, my throat is a little dry. We did one show today that started on that whole conspiracy with the eclipse coming up,
yeah,
the whole eclipse. And I had a whole bunch of information, but then me and Ghost, do you know who Ghost is from
yeah,
my
yeah.
third eye? Okay. So we're on there and we're bullshitting because I just like him and we're talking. And next thing I know, we're talking about like food. I don't even know. And I was
I
like,
love
we're
that.
way off the topic. Yeah. But it was good still. We were talking about
Yeah,
like, don't drink regular tap water.
yeah.
You're going to
I like
die.
that though
No.
because it's real conversations. I like that. I think that's
Mhm.
cool.
I get in
You know,
trouble for
it's
that from some people though.
no,
Some
not
people on the YouTube, just YouTube, they don't understand the long form conversation thing, the Joe
yeah,
Rogan bit.
yeah.
They
I love
like,
that.
oh, just be quiet and let the presenter present. And I'm like, no, that's stupid.
No, no.
Nobody wants that.
I listened to Joe Rogan. He put an episode out today. It
I
was
love Joe
over
Rogan.
5 hours
Yeah.
long, and it's just him
I
talking.
yeah, they're talking though.
I
Both
love
of
it.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, not
yeah,
one person.
yeah.
You don't
And
want to
it's
hear
so,
one
and it's real.
person.
It's like a real
Yeah, it's real.
conversation.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
get off topic, you do whatever. It's normal to do that. Who
yeah.
stays on one topic?
No, then
No
it's too
one.
planned, and
It's
yeah,
like
we
scripted.
we don't
Yeah.
do that. Anyway,
We're not scripted.
where's my
Yeah.
notes? I'm joking.
All right. I do have to write notes to myself on
Right,
important things because I'll
yeah.
forget. But if it's my true story or my Mormon life
You don't need the
or
notes.
John D, almost John D. John D is pretty memorized at this point because I've talked about him all the time.
Yeah.
So, as which is weird.
It's all interesting. It's all interesting. What
Yeah, it's fun.
can we get into the Italy
Let's do
story?
it.
Because I'm dying to know what happened in Italy.
All right. So, do we just want to start? Do you do an intro? I can't remember.
I was going to
Do you
put
do
all, I was going to put all
You
this
can
in,
put whatever
if
you
you
want.
don't
I don't
mind.
care. No, I don't care.
But I will
As long as I
introduce you.
didn't offend anyone with my cussing, even though I'm a Christian lady.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I did learn a new bad word today about you guys, you Brits.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know it was a bad word.
Okay, you got to tell
I don't
us.
know if I can say it. Can I say it on here?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can say it.
know.
You can say anything on
Okay.
it. It might affect
I
the
heard it.
YouTube, but the other stuff.
Well, no, it won't affect YouTube because it's just a British bad word and nobody
Okay.
else. But I didn't
Okay.
know. And so my
What's the
friend
word?
Ghost, he said, you can't say Fanny if you go to England. And I said, what? And he goes, because here it's not a bad word. It's not a bad word here. It's not. I wanted to bring this up because it's funny. Guess what? This
Yeah.
is a lot of people's first name in America.
Really?
Old ladies, Mormon old ladies are named that. And when he told me what it meant.
Yeah.
We won't say that.
Yeah.
And I almost died laughing because there's so many Mormon old ladies that I've done the baptisms for the dead. When
Really?
you do the baptisms for the dead, their names are that. I
Oh,
don't want to repeat it
wow.
again
That's
because I
cool.
don't want to
That's
offend
cool.
everyone.
That's cool.
But I just was dying. And
Yeah, it means
here,
something different in the
yeah,
UK.
totally different. Here,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything bad. It's like
That's mad.
your boot. Here, it means your booty, like your
Right,
booty.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
that's all
strange,
it
isn't it?
means.
How that happens. Like
But
it's
it didn't
really
used to even mean that. Yeah, it used to just be
it's
a name.
really weird. Yeah. It's
Oh,
just
that's
one
so
day someone
funny.
decided that that's what it was going to
That's
mean,
the name.
and that's what it's
That
become.
that's slang. It's
Yeah.
kind of hilarious.
It's a great word.
I'm a nurse, so I have no shame, and that's why I was like,
That's awesome. That's awesome. It is. It's mad how the
hopefully I
words.
you can beep it out if you need to.
Nah, that's okay. That's an okay one.
Okay.
I thought you was going to say something worse, to be honest. I wasn't sure
Oh
what.
no. I know that there is some other words, but I think everybody knows them, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
bugger or something like that. Like
yeah,
I know that they say funny things like that. But
yeah.
we only brought it up because his name, do you know who Ghost is? You do,
I
right?
do.
From my
Yeah,
third eye.
yeah.
So you know about what his news show is called, right?
I haven't
Called
seen.
this CUNT word. And
I do
that
know.
word here,
Yes,
yeah. So
yes.
here in America, that's a horrible word.
Yeah, and here as
Worse
well.
than, yeah.
Yeah,
And so, but he said there a lot of times people will say it is like slang
yeah.
funny,
I used
like they
to.
call each other. Yeah.
I used to do, and I'm thinking of getting back into it at some point because I love doing it. I used to do stand-up comedy.
It's
That's
so funny. Oh my
and
gosh,
I
that's
used to
cool.
get in trouble for
Oh,
saying that word. Believe it or not,
really?
I'm quite clean when I
I
do the
thought
point, and
that
I
was
am.
a funny thing
It is
there. I
funny,
thought
but you
people
do
just
get
say that to each
some
other.
people don't like it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I guess
I don't get it, but
I think all words are funny, I guess.
yeah, I would say I would have a bit in my set where I'd sometimes drop that
Oh
word,
my
and I
gosh.
would get
And they don't like it. Silence. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes.
You can't. Yeah. Now it's like you can't say, I don't know, she or
Oh, you can't
he.
say it.
You have to
Yeah,
say they or them.
yeah. You have to be very
Uh,
careful.
and guess what? People are invoking spirits with that shit because I'll tell you something. Who did they call they or them in the Bible? It was Legion, for he was many. Cut it out, people. Cut it out, people.
Interesting. Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
about that one day. I was like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a trickery
Yeah.
if
It's
you
all
don't
done
get
on
my drift.
purpose. It's all done on
Yeah, like
purpose.
invoking, right? Like
Yeah.
invoking
That is for
spirits. Yeah,
sure. That is something they
that's what
do.
I think. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's just my thoughts on that
Interesting.
little piece.
Yeah.
So one day I was telling you we traveled a lot when my daughter was around. And this is my daughter that doesn't talk to me anymore, but she was probably 23 then when we went to Rome. And I was as normal of a normie as any little lady could be. Okay. Still coming. pretty much out of Mormonism, but Christian, but like kind of not that good of a Christian, Christianish, right?
Yeah.
Christian-esque, maybe. I don't know. And we were at this fountain standing there and we were talking. My husband had gone in to go get us sandwiches. And I was like, this really big Italian man comes walking towards us and he's like a gladiator. And I'm like, oh Lord, get him away from us. Because my husband, one thing about my husband is he's never jealous unless they are buff, because he is
Yeah.
buff and he
A,
doesn't like that.
and a buff
So he
Italian.
doesn't like that. Yeah, if they're especially if they're bigger, right? He doesn't like it.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
doesn't like brown-haired guys because I guess red hair, like I guess you guys feel weird about it, but he knows I have a thing. Like, I mean, my ex-husband's a redhead, my husband's a redhead,
yeah.
my ex-boyfriend's a redhead. Like he knows I'm not about the brown-haired
That's your
guys.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's my thing. And I'm like thinking, why are you concerned about this brown-haired guy? You know that
yeah.
this is not for me.
We've got
You
a
know, my
complex
daughter's,
about it.
yeah. Yeah, he's weird about it. I'm like, no. So I'm like, you gotta go, guy. Like, I don't know what you're trying to do unless you're talking to her. Like, my daughter was single. So I was like, go ahead, but you gotta stand over there a little, get away from me. And so he's trying to get us to go on his tour. And I'm like, uh-huh, sure. Like, I am very skeptical of all people because I just think everyone's a serial killer pretty
Yeah,
much. And
yeah.
I'm just like, no, we're not going. You're crazy. Like, I don't know you. Like, show me some credentials. Show me your tour guide. I don't know. I'm weird. And he was like, no, I did Kourtney Kardashian last week. He shows us these pictures. He's legit. Like, he was in 300. He was a gladiator. That's why he looked like
Oh,
a gladiator.
wow. Yeah,
So he's kind of famousy, whatever there. So he just needed a couple more people to fill his tour. And so we were like the people that got asked at the sandwich shop, rando. So I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll go. And so we go, and he's like, well, I take people on these back trail kind of things, not the normal, because he lives there. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then at the end, you got to go eat where this lady, you don't have to, this old lady, she serves food. You get what you get, and you just got to eat that. And it was delicious, but I have a whole bunch of food allergies. So I was like, shit. Like, he's like, you can't complain about anything. And I'm like thinking, am I going to die today? Like, is this it for me? Like, I hope I make it, like I'm allergic to clams and hard shell fish and rice and all this
oh,
stuff. So I'm
wow.
like, I'm like, please don't let there be any of that in there. Like everybody was tasting for me because I didn't want to die and I didn't want to offend the old lady that's cooking. She was like 85. And so great food, by the way,
Yeah,
amazing. But so he's taking us around all these old churches and we're just taking pictures, nothing major, and we went to some cool ones and we like did check-ins on Facebook because we were that normal like back then. Like, oh, look where we are, government.
yeah.
Hi. Like, oh, great. We're
We
so
used to do
stupid.
that. We all used to do that all the time.
Oh
Every
my
restaurant.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah. It was I look back, it's only been like what, 6 years maybe or something. I'm like, wow, this is a whole nother world. But so we do this check-in and we're taking photos of dead guys in glass cases because they're like in the churches, weird stuff, whatever. And it was fun and it went fine. And then we leave and we go home, but there was one church and I was like, that church was kind of weird. And everybody was like, yeah, that was different. And he's like, well, this is one of my favorite churches and blah, blah, blah. And I can't remember why. So, but you have to go below. It's like this weird, it goes out and then goes down. And he's like, oh, well, it's built on top of ruins. That was all he said, ruins. He didn't say what, none of that. So I'm like, all right. And so we go about our merry way. We see, the Pantheon, whatever, all the things. We go home. And then we have another trip in California. And it was shortly after, maybe just 2 months with our family off grid. I mean, when I say off grid, probably Bigfoot is there. Like
Yes.
it was no joke. It had to have a generator and it was ran by solar. Like this thing is like off, off, off. And so it's next to a river, which you know about water. And I wished I could remember the river name, but it's deep in the redwood forest, the big redwood forest, like super big. And we're just there and it was beautiful and everything. And it was a full moon, which I didn't know. I didn't remember any of this. I have pictures. This is why I want to put together a little photo spread. I'll send you some pictures, but on my Facebook when I checked in and all the dumb shit I did, right? Like So, um, anyway, long story short, the kids were kind of being weird with each other, and my daughter was being extra picking on my stepson who was going through his Jesus phase. Like he looked like Jesus, he read Jesus, he made me drive clear to town, way out of the way because he wasn't eating pork that night. Like he was being a serious, what really dedicated. And I was like, all right, whatever. He's had a lot of phases. So I was like, okay, fine. I will drive 25 miles down the road to buy you special hot dogs, right? And so my stepdaughter or my daughter's being kind of ornery with him and they're kind of fighting ish. And then she slept upstairs with the other kids. Well, we have 6 kids, only 5 were on this trip. And so she slept upstairs with my middle kids. We have bigs and the littles. They're kind of similar ages, and we got a baby, right? At this point. So the bigs are there, but they're arguing. The littles are like besties and they're with my daughter. So they sleep together up in the loft that night. And I hear this noise and it woke me. My husband could sleep through a hurricane. This is confirmed at this point because something hit that house and it shook it. It's like an A-frame cabin. It's beautiful, but it's all windows, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to die now because there's a bear and you can't even call 911. Like there's no service, there's nothing. You're just in the woods, you know? And I'm like, no neighbor, like this is just the woods, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm thinking we're gonna die tonight because that bear comes through these windows. We're dead, you know. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And I wake up and I'm like, kids, and my kids, the 2 upstairs heard it. Yeah, they're crying. And I'm like, I'm gonna look around. So I'm trying to wake my husband up. Get up. We are gonna die. So I said, I know it hit that window and all this, and it shook the house, and the kids said the same thing, and we didn't see anything. And he's like, well, there's nothing out there. I don't know what to tell you. So he goes outside and he goes, there's no way something hit that window. And I go, why? And he goes, because it's like 100 feet in the air. Because it doesn't seem like it
Wow.
when you're inside because of the balcony that goes
Yeah.
around this place. And so I'm like, no, look again. I heard it and felt it hit the window, like it hit that window with force, you know? And he's like, there is no, it, even a bear is not that tall. Like it's way too tall. So he chalks it up like maybe an owl flew in or something, right? I don't know. And so we go lay back down, and my older daughter sits straight up in bed, but she's still asleep. So she just sits up like, you know, that. And she goes, Minerva, no. And then lays back down and cold stone asleep still. She's not awake at all. And so my little kids are hysterical. They think this is like the funniest thing they've ever seen because she was so weird when she sat up and did it. Like, so the rest of the whole trip, they're like, Minerva, no. Like, and they're just making fun of her hard because they're like 10, you know, they're like 10 and 11 or 12. Like, they're at that age where they're just like, that's so funny, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter kept being so fussy with everybody, this girl that was the one that was the Minerva no. And so anyway, they were like making fun of her, and she just was being a raunch. And finally I just said, you know what? Before we go to Oregon, if you want to go home because you have flights, you can just get on a plane because I'm about had it with you, you know. And she was like, no, I'm just, I don't know. And she was just being not herself. And I thought, that's really weird, you know. And the rest of the trip was fine and everything. We go home, and not too long after that, she estranged from our family. So that would have been in June. And in September, things were rocky. By November, right after Thanksgiving, I have never seen her again for 5 years. It's been 5 years.
Wow. And you still haven't
And
seen her.
she won't see me, talk
Oh,
to me. She's had a baby. She got married. He doesn't like us. She had met this guy, and this is how they met. He walked up to her in the middle of a very crowded airport right after she was coming home from Jamaica, or no, Dominican Republic. And he said, God told me if I didn't talk to you, I'd regret it for the rest of my life.
wow.
And I'm like, okay.
That's
So, and
that's pretty smooth.
he's not dashing. He's a normal guy. You know, she almost didn't date him because she was like, I mean, he's okay. You know, she was like, but he is a pilot. And I was like, right. And so he's very special. If you ask him, he'll tell you. And yeah, that's just how they are, right? Like surgeons, pilots,
Yeah.
lawyers, they're like, yeah, I'm very special.
Podcasters.
Like, yeah, you know. And
Yeah.
so he's very like that. And I'm just not like that. Like, if you treat my daughter good, like, and you're the garbage man, that's fine.
Yeah, for
Like, I
sure.
don't care.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, be a good person. That's
Yeah.
all. And be nice to people. And that's all. So even my one daughter's guy that she's with, they're not married yet, but I'm assuming they will get married. He doesn't even believe in God. And I don't foul him. Like, whatever. It's not my business, you know? Like, I love him. He's a great guy. He treats my daughter good.
Yeah.
Right? That's the prerequisites, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all there is.
That's very
So he
important.
met us, yeah, and he met us only 3 times, this guy. And he was always like, I gotta go. Oh, I gotta go early, like 3 days early. I'm like, oh, that's too bad because we really don't know you, you know, or I would try to plan little things like, oh, there's a old plane museum down the road for Air Force planes. I don't want to see those. I'm like, oh, well, you're a pilot. I just thought you would want to see those. And he's like, why would I want to see that? I'm a commercial plane person. Like, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, it's fine. But how are we supposed to get to know you? You know,
Yeah.
he just wants to do what he wants to do. And that's okay. But like, at some point, we need to know who you are because you guys are
Yeah.
getting serious, you know?
And you should make effort
And
with family and stuff. I think that's
yeah,
very important. Yeah.
I thought so. I thought that would be like, you would want to make a good impression on your
Yeah,
future,
of
maybe in
course.
laws,
Of
you know?
course. Yeah.
But he wasn't really about that, and he was just like, "Meh," you know, and I was like, "Okay, whatever." Like, I wasn't sure. He was still nice to me, so I really didn't have a complaint, but it was a little odd. You know, like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And so then after that, he left, and then we never saw her anymore after this one fight on Thanksgiving, and she just like freaked out. I freaked out on her cuz I'm like, you guys can't be talking about getting married. We haven't even met his parents. Like, this is crazy. You know, like, we have to, you guys have only been together 5 months. We would like to meet his family. We would like to know him, actually like spend time with him, like, and make sure that you're going to be safe because he lives clear across the country. I'm on one end and he's on the other, and it is far.
Yeah.
And so clear across America, like East Coast to, I'm in Mountain Standard. So I'm in
Yeah.
Utah, they're in East. And so I was worried, you know, because if I'm going to let my daughter go there, and he's already told her, we're having the wedding in my town, we're living in my town, we're doing everything in my town. And I was getting pissed off. Like, honestly, I was
Yeah, I'm
like, dude,
sure.
yeah, you're not paying for the wedding. Like,
You,
what?
you might have
What?
said, but can I ask you how old your daughter was at this time?
Oh, yes. She was okay. So 23.
Okay.
And so she's 23 and he's the same age. And like I said, I was excited for her because she had gone through a really rough time right before this. Like, really bad thing happened to her. And she talks publicly about it and stuff, but she had had a rape. And so, and it
Oh,
was
no.
brutal. It was brutality. And
Oh, that's
it
horrible.
was, and I would not divulge that, but she does speak about it openly and she kind of advocates and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but it was a horrible time in her life. And she also felt like an old maid because you have to understand, in the Mormon culture, if you're not married by 21, you're old.
Oh,
And she
wow.
was getting close to 24. I was got married when I was 17.
Yeah.
And my grandma was 14, and we were all just kids when we got married, you know, that's just a thing here. And so all her friends would had already got married, were having kids. She was feeling sad. Like, this bad thing happened to her, then this, like, it's just a lot of stuff. And so I was always really close to her, and she is my identical twin, like, identical. And so she was closest in age to me. We're only 20 years apart. So I mean, it was just, we always were close.
Yeah.
And you know, he didn't like it, I don't think. But he got rid of us and made big deals out of nothing. And then I did a bad thing because I was not as good of a Christian then. And I shot back at him on social media, which I should not have done because it was wrong. And I should have just shut up and let it pass by. But when I get mad, I should have been a redhead.
You got that redhead
I got a
anger.
temper. Yeah, I am Irish. I
We
am
can go.
Scottish and
We can
Irish.
go. When
Yeah.
we go, we go.
Yep. I definitely have a bad temper sometimes, but back then it was kind of unchecked. Now it's a lot different. But at that time, I was like No, I'm a yeller.
Yeah,
I
but I
yell,
can't
you
blame you though.
know.
It's your family, you
Yeah.
know. It's very important. So
Well,
that's the
and when you're
most important
yelling,
thing.
you're not really yelling because you're mad. You're yelling because you're hurt. Like
Yeah, of
people that
course.
come from abusive families, which I came from a very abusive family, the one emotion that I saw in my family home that was acceptable was anger. Not crying, you'll get something to cry about.
Yeah,
Not anything else. Like you just when you grow up abused, and my situation wasn't verbal abuse, it was horrible abuse. So, and my kids know, and so they know like mom's got these weird little triggers, like because you have to tell people, like if you get closer than an arm length away from me and you're yelling at me, I probably will want to fight you. And it's what's going to happen. And
yeah,
so I just warn people, like, you got to stay, like, you can say anything you want from right there.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
all have our thing.
yeah, for sure.
And so she knew, but we went off about this whole thing one day, and then she used it against me and never spoke to me again. And I was like, me and you have had 100 fights. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, every good thing I ever did is now out the door because I lost my temper one day. Like, you don't do that to people. And so, yes, I shouldn't have been rude, and definitely shouldn't have posted on social media. But I was very actually, and still am very worried because he took her away. No one in my family has ever seen her again, ever.
Wow.
Not her
Oh
sister,
man.
not my son, who was only he was 12 when this happened and was super close with her, not my baby, not my husband, not my ex-husband, her stepdad that raised her whole life, like nobody. She never came back, and she came back once and got her stuff and threw it all in the trash. It was like her prom dresses and her stuff in her storage unit that she had saved and said, I don't need any of that anyways. She tells my mom weird things like, I'm a different person now. You wouldn't know me. Like, I don't know that I love all that, because you were a good person then. And even if you make yourself a better person, who you are shouldn't change. Like
Yeah,
your
yeah,
behaviors can change, like yelling or these bad things. But who you are as a person should never be a completely new person. That's not
yeah,
normal.
yeah.
And so, as a psych nurse, I'm a psych nurse. I think as soon as he found that out, it was maybe like the third or second visit. He left pretty promptly. He didn't stick around, and he doesn't like me putting my 2 cents into things at all. Like, he bought a house without talking to my daughter. Like, he wanted a prenup. Like, there was a lot. It
Oh
was a lot.
man.
Yeah. And so we were scared, as
Yeah,
parents. You want me to send my daughter halfway across America and have a prenup and be stuck there and no career. Like, I was like, always told my kids, go for your career, even if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, because you have it if you need it.
yeah,
It's there. He doesn't like strong women like that, I don't think. Like, and I'm not sure why, because he comes from a line of strong women. His mom is
yeah,
a strong woman, but and a very career woman. And so in the banking world though, and I was pretty into my conspiracies at that point. So it makes me wonder sometimes. I'm like, that's it. Put that in my back pocket.
yeah.
Like a VP, like up and
Oh
like
wow.
of a tiny
Hi.
town. And
Yeah.
so kind of important, like
Interesting.
everybody. Yeah,
Yeah,
goes to this
yeah,
lady. So we're going through this is actually how I gained my testimony too, is through 2020. This was all happening in 2020. And we had just had like
and that was a
eight.
crazy year
Oh, it was so
for
weird.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then on top of it, in 2019, we had death after death after death. My brother died. My dad died. My grandma died. Like my ex-husband's new wife died, and she was young. Like my brother's ex-wife died. I mean, it was just like really, it was catastrophe. And so we were just trying to deal with all this disaster. I guess that would have been 2018. So that happened, then 2020 happened, then that happened during 2020, and they got married, and they sent me a letter stating, do not come to our wedding. You are not invited. You cannot be here because you have PTSD, which I do. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't trust you to act right. And so,
man.
No one could go. No one went from her
Did it
side.
none of oh wow.
No, no, because my kids were all young, and the only one that could have gone was my other daughter, and she has bad social anxiety, like horrible social anxiety. So she's like, I'm not going by myself. Are you guys crazy? Like, no way.
Yeah.
So, and I encouraged like my mom or anybody, my mom doesn't fly. It was just like not a good situation. But so all that happened, and I was falling apart. Like, really, if there was ever a time in my life where there was a Job time. Usually, with the day that my brother died, the next day my daughter had to drive halfway across the country and report for her new job, or she would lose that flight attendant job that she had worked so hard for. And I had it all set up for her to have her going away party, which we had to cancel. My brother was 37. He had an accidental overdose. It was very tragic. It
Oh
was very
man.
bad. His 12-year-old daughter was there. Her real mom has never raised her. Like, it was really bad. And we raised her whole life with my brother, and the real mom showed up and just took her away. And I mean, it was just horrific. Like, all the bad things in a basket, and still my daughter needed me to drive her halfway across the country. And I am a disaster. Like, I'm not okay. And I still did it. And I got my boots up and just screw it. I'm going to do it. She needs me, right? This is how close I am with this kid. And
Yeah.
so, and I tried to be like upbeat and still like, this is an exciting thing for her life, even though that was a horrible thing for my life. It was like I didn't want to make it so bad, like, don't go, which, by the way, if I was a narcissist, I would have said, don't go, because I didn't want her to go really. But,
Yeah.
you know, I wanted her to branch out and spread her wings and live her dream, really.
Yeah.
And so she went to Michigan, and we drove her there, clear from Utah. And I got all that done, still came home, like all that stuff. But like I said, at this point I'd gone through all of that and kind of made it through it okay. But then this just hit me, because this is a choice. A death is not a choice. They didn't choose to want to leave you, those particular instances. And I know he wouldn't have chose that, but she chose. And that hurt me. Like, I don't know that I've ever been hurt like that before.
Yeah.
And I was a ward of the court by 12. Like, I had a pretty bad life, and that hurt me worse than any of that. And so I'm falling apart, and I'm just like, God, you got to do something, because I don't really want to kill myself, but I don't really want to be here right now. And I had all these other kids, you have to remember, like little kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, just read the Bible. So I start to read the Bible just all the time, and journal, 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 read the Bible and journal. And I did that every single day. It was coffee and journaling. Like, with the coffee came the Bible. Like, that's how it was. And it really helped me. And that, and Derek Prince. I don't know if your listeners know who Derek Prince is, but he's amazing. And you guys can Google him on YouTube, and he's passed away. He can be legalistic, but his sermons are still really great. And so I would listen to Derek Prince, I would journal, I'd read the Bible. And I remembered thinking to myself, because I had had all these health problems. I'd already had cancer. I'd already lost my brother. I'd had all these bad problems. I remember thinking, man, like, this is like my Job time, right? This is like my Job time. And I just remember thinking, well, Job lost all of his kids in one day. Yes, he was sustained and had more children later, but that's not the same kids. You never get a
Yeah.
replacement for a kid. A kid is or a person in
Yeah.
general. And so, long story short, on all that, I was going through that while and learning about weird things, right? Gods and Minerva and owls and Bohemian Grove. So I'm getting pretty crazy into conspiracies at this point, because the Bible leads you there, to be
Yeah.
honest.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, what's this about? What's a Nephilim? What's this? What's that? Let's find out. So one day I was telling my husband about Bohemian Grove and the owls. And isn't it weird that California has Minerva on their state flag? And then we were there in California, and she sat up and said Minerva in the middle of California. And like, we were talking about it, and it was weird. And so we were like, yeah, that is weird. And then there's a bear on the state flag, and there was like that boom on the house, and like all this weird stuff. So we were like, yeah, it is. that is weird, and we kind of blew it off. I'm kind of researching like really a lot on that after that, right? I'm trying to figure this out because she changed a lot after that. And then I thought that was such a random thing. Well, then my husband, about 2 months after that, because it had been a full year since we went to Italy, he says, "Hey, I need you to look at something." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna look." No, now you need to come here. And I'm like, "Okay, calm down. Like what?" He's like, "Look where we were a year ago when I did that check-in at the church." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." And he goes, "We were in the Temple de Minerva." Mm-hmm. Oh, it gets good. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And I
wow.
go, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "It's a check-in, Heidi. Look at it." So I Google it. They built a Catholic church on top of her actual temple. And if you know the story about Medusa and Minerva's dude, right? What's his name? Neptune, or isn't it Neptune? I think that's
Not
right.
sure.
Her guy, her god guy. I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, so he gets overcome with lust why Medusa's there and rapes her. Remember what I told you about my daughter got raped in that
Yeah.
temple. And then this gets even better. So maybe 3 months later, not better. This gets weirder. Um, so then about 3 months later, my daughter Shay, she's like, "Mom, did you see her new tattoo?" And I said, "No. Why?" And she goes, "Because you're gonna shit." And she goes, "First of all, I want you to know I never said a word about any of the weirdo stuff you think." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Because she doesn't like to talk about you guys or anything, you know." And I'm like, "All right, whatever. What? Let me see a tattoo. What'd she do? Tattoo Anton LaVey on her or something? What?" And she's like, "No." She got a full sleeve done of Medusa on her arm with some cherubim, which what do we know about Satan, right? And
Man.
I was like, "What?" And I know that her roommate before this all happened, her roommate was from somewhere where I think it was Louisiana or somewhere, but her grandmother was into like hoodoo and voodoo and some weird stuff, and they were doing like love spells. They were doing some weird stuff, and I flat told her, "You need to not be messing with that. Like that's scary. Don't." And she had already done it, and she said, "I know, I feel really bad, but it had happened." And this was before she met her dude. And that shortly later, he walks up to her and in the airport, and then everything changed. And that friend that lived with her, it was almost like an assignment because she just disappeared. She unfriended all of us off Facebook.
No.
She disappeared, and none of us ever saw her again. And she wouldn't talk to us, nothing. It was very strange. And I thought, like knowing what I know now about invoking spirits and weird things and spells, and like I can't help but wonder. Now she was saved at that point. She wasn't rebaptized, but she had given her heart over at least. But then also she opened a door because she was performing witchcraft, with this girl.
Yeah.
And I always have to wonder if there's a little attachment there. Now, that's not the same as needing a full exorcism where it takes over your body and they inhabit you. But there's things that can attach to you. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that.
Yeah.
And for the fact that we went in the temple, we were there, did that, and then we went, right after that, there was that Minerva no, then she had the thing on her arm. I mean, it's just too
Yeah.
it's a lot. That's a lot.
And would you say
Like,
her attitude changed from that
oh,
trip in Italy?
100%. Yep. But I thought it was because of the guy that she was dating. Like, we didn't put two and two together
Yeah.
until we were already kicked out of her life because we didn't know. We didn't know for a full year until way later that was even somewhere we were. And
Yeah.
that shows you the importance. And then it makes you wonder, remember, we weren't supposed to be on that tour. And who
Yeah.
does he
It's
cater
like,
to? Who does he cater to? To the stars. That
yeah.
guy.
And we know what, yeah. Oh, man,
I mean, it makes you wonder.
it
It makes you
does.
wonder a lot of things because I mean, it was random. And I have pictures of the church that we were in, the Minerva church. I have pictures of her tattoo and how she wrote a big post about how she identifies with Medusa. I mean, that's weird
Oh man.
because she was raped and she didn't give up and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, but that's weird. That's
Yeah.
weird. Why would you
There's
want such a dark,
too
yeah.
many coincidences there.
And marries a pilot after she
Too
got
many
raped by a
links.
pilot. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I
Man.
people might think that sounds crazy, and I used to think the same thing, but like, I I don't know
When,
what else you say.
yeah. When you saw the name of the check-in on and you realized the name of the temple, like that must have been
Mm.
a
Oh,
massive.
it almost made us sick. We were just I'm not saying that like everywhere you go, goblins and ghouls are there to just get you, but like sometimes when you open a door, you are susceptible to things that you might not otherwise be susceptible to.
Yeah.
And I know for me, every day when I wake up, I even if it takes 5 seconds, I just say, I put the armor of God upon me in the name of Jesus, because
Yeah.
there are things out there. And if they weren't,
100%.
then yeah, why would they have Bohemian Grove or
Yeah.
weird stuff? Like, why would they even do any of that?
Yeah. 100%.
I mean,
Man.
it's weird. It's a
It,
weird story, and I
it's
think that there was something there. She did get rebaptized later. She got rebaptized in his church, but I think it's Baptist maybe.
yeah.
But so maybe it's broke some of it off. I don't know. I don't get to know. So
So is there people in the family now that are still connected and talking to her?
only two, and they only talk to me minimally because that's her wishes. And
Oh,
so, but there is a very cute, I do have a grandbaby and she's really cute. And
man.
um, yeah, I
I
gotta
mean,
see little pictures. She looks a lot like I did when I was little. So
yeah.
that's fun. But
Well,
I mean, I'm sure they don't think.
I hope you can resolve this and somehow the story gets a better ending. I really do. I
Yeah.
really hope that you
Yeah.
can sort this out and because that's terrible, man.
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's worse. It's worse than my brother's death or worse than a death in general because it's a choice. You know,
Yeah.
you can kind of heal from a death eventually because you know that there's nothing you can do. There's really not. But
Yeah.
this is a kind of a weird wound where you can't fix it, but also you can't push it. You can't. You're
Yeah.
not, no, you could try, it might make it worse. But I just pray all the time, like, well, what should I do? Like the old me would have just flown there and to be damned with anybody's wishes and just showed up on the doorstep. And like, if I got arrested, because I think he would call the police. But I would probably chance that, but not now, because if I have to force myself into the situation, like, how is that going to feel for her,
Yeah.
too? Like, that's
Yeah.
it's not the way it has to be, right? The kid has to come home. Like when you have a prodigal son, what happened? The kid had to come home. It's not the other way around where the parent chases the kid until they decide to come home. Like I
Yeah.
have got to tell her once. I will tell you one other very strange thing that happened regarding this. And it was the baby was born, and my mom came over, and we were all at the table. It was me, my son, my other daughter, and my mom, and we were just having coffee talking about the baby. And I got pissed, and I said, "This needs to stop now." And I didn't like get crazy mad. I just said it kind of forcefully. And um, right then my mom's phone rang. It was so weird. And we were like, that was weird. And she picks up the phone and there's just screaming and chaos. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's happening? Because she had to have a C-section. So I was scared that maybe something bad had happened, like she had to go to the hospital or something. And she's screaming. My mom is also a panicker. She just hands the phone to me. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, lightning hit her house. And I was like, what? Just then, when I said now, lightning struck their home, hit a gas line, and blew their wall out and started their house on fire. And
Wow.
Exertus, he's funny. I do a show with him about Mormons, and he goes, it's Mormon lightning. but but I'm not Mormon
Wow.
anymore, so it can't be Mormon lightning. But it was
Yeah.
kind of funny. Not haha. I'm glad everyone was safe and everyone was okay. But their house, I mean, he's a volunteer firefighter as well. And so he ran back in and saved the day, and that was great. But I'm glad they were all safe, but also
Yeah.
like nobody learned any lessons from it except for maybe me. Silently, I was like,
That
I
is
better watch what
strange.
I say.
That is
That is very
strange.
weird.
Because I don't believe in coincidences anymore. So when stuff like that
Mm.
happens, there's too many
Not like that.
coincidences.
Like
Yeah.
the lightning. Yeah. And then I did get to tell her very quickly while she was on the phone, moms don't quit. You can quit me, but I'm not going to quit you.
Yeah.
So when you're ready to come home, I'm here and I love you and your baby's beautiful. And so I did get to tell her that. And she did say she loved us. And that was all we got. But also the next phone call to my mother, who handed me the phone, not from my daughter, wasn't very good. And I don't like to say too much about what it was because it will just get my mom into trouble. But she was basically told that will never happen again, or else you won't talk to her either. And so he called me a demon and demonic and all this stuff. And I was like, and it was right after my episode about Minerva. And I think he maybe heard it.
Oh, wow.
So, because why say demonic, right? Because I was talking
Yeah.
about demons. And so I'm sure that ticked him off because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's demonic. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like you don't
Is
act very
that?
Christ-like for a Christian because what does it say in the Bible about abandoning your parents when they age? What does it say about honoring your mother and father? He used leave and cleave with her to get her to do what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not okay to manipulate like that
No.
because he's
No.
still around his. How come he
Yeah.
doesn't leave and cleave? He doesn't like me because I'm very quick. And I would say quick things as well. Like, well, no, not rude, just like, no, that's not,
Mm.
no, it has to be both ways, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
And he didn't like that very much. Yeah, he's
I
different.
don't know
I don't
why
know.
you'd want to take someone you love away from their family. You know,
No.
it doesn't make sense. It
We've had a lot of
really doesn't.
problems. We've had a lot of problems with my husband's family as we both exited the church and they found out I was an apostate, which means I had the full knowledge and they believe that apostates go to hell. And so when they found that out, they were less than thrilled that I was going to be entering their family, of course. Um, but my husband was angry, and there were many times where my husband was like, "That's enough. I'm just not going to deal with this anymore. It's not worth it with them." And I always said, though I was upset at my treatment, I would always say, "You can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not right. That's not okay." And when he would calm down as a loving Christian wife, I could have easily been not a loving Christian wife and said, "Yeah, you need to let just forget about them. Let's go move away or
Yeah.
whatever."
But
But
that says
that's
a
not
lot
right.
about you. That says a lot about you and your character, and so that's
Well, it's the right thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah,
of
there's
course.
right
Yeah.
and wrong, like
Yeah.
what you're saying about
Yeah.
you can even distance yourself from someone, but not be full cut off. You can give people boundaries. You can healthily do that. You can
Hmm.
apply certain things. You can make time frames. You can make time limits. But really, a full cutoff like that is actually really
Yeah.
cruel.
It is cruel.
And
It's one of the most
yeah,
hurtful things you can experience.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, Heidi, you've had
But
it
that's
tough.
my weird Minerva story.
Yeah,
It
it's
is a
very.
weird
And
story.
the thing is, it doesn't sound like it's. I hope it has a happy ending. I really do, and you can get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's over.
I hope not. I'll never give up. And there's
Yeah,
one thing that and I think sometimes he listens to my stuff. They know about it.
I'm sure they do.
And and if he does, then I hope he hears one thing is God gave her to me first. And the one thing is whether it's on this planet or in another life, I will get my daughter back. And there's
Yeah,
nothing you can do about it because God made that happen for a reason, right? Like I am her mother for a reason.
yeah,
And there's nothing you can do to take that away from me because that's my divine right.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I hope it doesn't take a lifetime. I pray that it would never, but like at the end of the day, you have to wait on God. Like
yeah,
every time I pray, it's wait. And so,
yeah.
not in my nature, by the way.
Yeah.
my nature is to go down there.
Yeah.
and say, what is your problem? Like cut it out.
It's so difficult. It's such a difficult situation you're in because I'm sure every instinct in you. I've got kids myself, so I can imagine the
It's
yeah, because
hard.
that's what I feel like I would want to do, and yeah,
And I feel like maybe if she saw me, it would be different, or
yeah,
maybe, anything. But like at the end of the day, like if you force something, I had to remember something with the Derek Prince videos. He has a lot of videos out and he talks about forcing and forcefulness of things, which I was a very strict parent on her. When she was young, I was very Mormon and I was a forceful parent, not a mean parent, but they had to do what they were told.
yeah,
And I look back on it and it said he talks about force and how it can kind of be demonic in a way because you're taking the free agency of somebody to choose things. Now, I'm not saying let your 2-year-old grab the stove. That's not
mhm,
what I mean.
yeah,
But also at some point, I needed to pull back and not be so forceful. And I see that now. And I see that with my kids. But like, also, there's one big thing that everybody needs to remember here. And in this day and age, this is forgotten. These newer parents in their 20s, maybe even early 30s, they feel like their children deserve all of the grace, but their parents deserve none. And I will tell you, people, that is not a good thing. Every parent isn't toxic. Every person isn't toxic. Every person isn't a narcissist. Even with her husband, I could easily say he's probably a narcissist. Do I know that? No. Do I see tendencies? Sure. But I don't know him. Like I have no right to judge him, right? Like I only know him from 3 visits. Do I like his actions? No. Do I think he's a Christian man? No, because a Christian man would believe in reunification and absolving the problem.
hmm
Even if there's boundaries, anyways, there would be. They live clear across the country,
yeah,
And so it's not going to be like I'm down to the house every day or some silly thing. That's just not going to happen.
yeah,
But also, you guys that want to just do this, I see it a lot. Like, I'm going to go live my best life and I'm going to go do me and I'm going to go do this. And my parents were too this and that. Well, you go do that. But you remember one thing, your parents wanted to go live their best life too, but they didn't. They stayed home and went to your hockey game, or they stayed home and helped you run for student body president and did all these things for you for your whole life or whatever it was, right? Like soccer or whatever.
yeah,
And they weren't, then they'll say weird things like, well, I didn't ask to be born. Well, I have news for you guys. We didn't ask to be born either. So it's a big circle. Like,
yeah, for
and
sure.
our parents were not soft with us. They were very harsh in our day and age, and most of us were raised pretty rough. It was none of this we care about your feelings. It was like you're lucky to have a roof over your head. Shut up.
Yeah,
And
the
I
thing,
don't blame my family, right? Like what do you do? It's a different
yeah,
era.
yeah,
It's
for sure.
changed.
Things are
Yeah.
changing. I mean, all we want is the best for our kids. That's all we
Yeah.
want as
Yeah.
parents is for the best, that they're happy. That's the main thing.
Yep.
And oh,
Change happens and we see it
yeah,
now, but like it is hard to, you have to remember, like most people's personalities are solidified by 5, between 5 and 8.
yeah,
And if you do come from a family like that, it is hard. It is hard to break a cycle. Did I break some of a cycle? I yelled too much, but I didn't beat my kids. I was beaten and I stopped that. But like every generation, you hope it gets better and better and better, and
yeah,
you learn. Like I didn't stop learning and say, well, too bad. Like I get it. There's things I did that were definitely wrong. Like
yeah,
I wished I could take a lot of things back, as does every person on earth that was
yeah.
ever a parent.
That's life.
They don't,
Yeah,
yeah, that's, you can't sit there and cry over the spilt milk that you just have to build. Even with my mom and my dad losing complete custody of me, if I hadn't forgiven them for their sins, and my dad went to prison, I mean, it was serious. If I hadn't ever forgiven him and said, that's okay, I love you for who you are, not what you did, I would have lost out on a lot of wonderful time with him. He's passed, and he passed really early.
mm.
And you never are guaranteed tomorrow. We're just
No,
not.
100%.
This little
Yeah,
game is scary,
yeah,
because none of us are guaranteed any of it.
yeah,
And I don't want her to know the pain that I feel, because that's one thing also about generational trauma is if you continue it with this kind of stuff, it's still hurtful. And your kid's still going to be like, one day your kid's going to go find me. And one day she's going to see grandma isn't like you said she was, and she's a nice lady. And even if grandma changed or whatever, they're just going to remember, like, you took this from me. You did that. Why did you do that? I'm angry at you. Then your kid's angry at you. Do you want that to continue? That's stupid too. You don't have to make me your best friend, but you shouldn't just throw people away, you know?
No, no, for sure. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
family.
Yep. And
Ah, it's
relationships should be healed.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Because what would
It's
Christ do, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. We all get
Yeah. I
angry, we
mean,
all have arguments, we all get angry, we all have bad days. But
mhm.
ultimately, you know, it's important that we heal those wounds
Be
and
graceful
yeah,
and be
yeah.
graceful. Like my mom's stuff that she had with me, she gets sad sometimes, and and she listens to my show. She's one of my biggest fans. And she says, "I'm so sorry. I'm so when I talk about my past, I talk to my mom about sharing things because I don't want to hurt her more and injure her. And she's okay with me sharing what I do, but she says I'm okay about it because that's your story, and I'm all right about it. But sometimes she feels sad and she's like, I wished I hadn't had that happen or this happen. And I just tell her, we all wish we hadn't done certain things, but I don't care. I love you. I talk to my mom every single day. There's
Yeah,
not a day that doesn't go by that I'm not grateful she's my mom. She's flawed. She's a mess sometimes. Who cares? She's my mother.
yeah.
Like,
And we all are.
and
We
yeah,
all got our
who
flaws.
cares? We're
Yeah,
adults now. If you don't like the situation as an adult, you can say, you know what, I really love you, but I'll see you tomorrow,
yeah.
you know, or
Can
in a
I
month, whatever.
can I ask you, does your daughter have any idea of your thoughts on the possibility that she might have an attachment?
I wonder if she's heard now that she's seen, my shows. Like I said, I don't know if it's still going on because she did get rebaptized and that was more recent. But I do wonder if she saw that and maybe, started to change things, or maybe that led to the baptism. I don't know. But I'm happy and grateful that she is baptized. She seems to be doing well. She
Mhm.
seems to be flourishing as a mother and all of that. And so I'm grateful for that. Like I said, I get to see things, and you have to remember, like, even though she is succeeding in some things, like, okay, she gets to be a stay at home mom and her husband's a pilot. I'm pretty sure she doesn't have to worry about how she's going to pay her power bill. Okay. I grew up washing my school clothes in a bathtub with no electricity a lot because we were poor. And when you grow up that way, it's hard. But no matter what, and no matter the extenuating circumstances that I was in, I still wanted to be with my mom. Even I could have gone to a
Yeah,
foster family, even I could have been somewhere else. I still want to be with my mom. I'd rather wash my clothes in the bathtub and be with my mom.
yeah,
And so I don't know that kids have that nowadays where they have, like, I'm going to live my best life. YOLO.
yeah,
They're kind of and
yeah,
I'm like I said, parents want to do that too.
yeah,
Parents
for
want to
sure.
go somewhere other than Disneyland. Like, are you serious? Like, I just want to go with your dad to Aruba by ourselves, But like, we're not going to do that. We love you
Yeah,
guys and we want to make you happy and do a family vacation where you can all fight in the woods. Perfect.
yeah,
But like, you know,
yeah,
it's like, what do you do? And so, I mean, you still at the end of the day try, right? Because tomorrow's a new day. And if you screw it up, you just have to learn grace. Like, you
yeah,
got to remember that Jesus didn't keep a score and say, well, too bad. Even Judas, like, he still was like, okay, it is what it is. Like, at Peter, you're going to deny me. And he still loved Peter. Like, it doesn't like go away because somebody did a bad thing.
yeah,
Now, do I think that if you're being physically abused and you're physically abused, period, like, that you should stay in that situation? No, you should go somewhere safe, but then you should still heal that. Even if you choose to cut contact on a severe case of abuse, you still need to heal that for yourself. Like you do. And
Hmm.
maybe that person's going to change later. Like not a husband or something, because I could see that could be dangerous, but like your dad or your mom, like maybe leave that door cracked and not all the way open where you can see, like my mom, she changed everything. She's totally different now. And I mean, the old her is nothing like the new her. The trauma that she gave me as a kid is extensive. And she was mostly the victim, but still, it happened, And I'm
Yeah.
talking like discharging firearms in the house, like some crazy stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it was a wild life, and I wouldn't change who my mother is. Like she's
Yeah.
still my mom. Like she didn't ever hurt me. Now her husband, who was not my father, I have cut ties with him since my brother died. But before my brother died, I kept it open. Did I go hang out with him? No. But I made it nice enough that we could go to a wedding together or
Hmm.
something, because that's my brother's dad, you know? I mean, I'm still going to have to see him sometimes. And I didn't go up to him and be like, you're the asshole that beat me all my life. Like,
Mm,
what's it
yeah.
gonna do? What's it gonna do at 40 years old? Like when I was back there, like grow up. You know what you did. I know what you did. He probably feels shame enough in himself.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to deal with that. That's for God to handle.
Yeah.
That's why God says it's his to handle. We're not supposed to do this weird petty shit to each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel. But yeah, I hope if she sees it, that I think that, and I do believe that she had some sort of attachment, that I hope she broke it off. I think she maybe did, because I
Hmm.
know my mom has told me that she's gone to church a lot and she has a church home and she got baptized and everything. So
Yeah.
that makes
Well,
me
that's
feel
good to
happy.
hear. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
When
think
when
maybe so. You can
when
ask me anything.
when you first went to Italy, had that trip, and you started noticing the changes, was it a gradual change? Like you were seeing things gradually, or was it a
um
very,
I think after her rape, it was hard because she was drinking a lot. And it was to the point where she was taking alcohol off of the airplanes. I mean, that's serious. Like you could lose your job and be in deep shit.
yeah,
So when I found out that she was doing that, I was like, this is a problem. This is serious. Your dad's an alcoholic and you know it. My grandpa was an alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic. This is probably a bad idea. And I don't think she liked that very much. And I don't think she likes to be called out very much, because she's actually an overachiever and is usually a really amazing human being. She just was dealing with something there. And I do think that that also made her more susceptible, but also changed her character and her personality. Right. So it's hard to know,
yeah,
because I didn't know, is she acting weird on this trip in reverse in my brain now that I'm a mental health nurse. All these things changed, right? I was doing medical nursing then, not
mhm,
not detox and stuff. So was she going through withdrawal? Was she? I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I look back on it now and I think, well, maybe that was it, or maybe it was the attachment, or I mean, it could be so many things.
yeah,
And so I'm not sure, but it wasn't very gradual. It was a change. It was
yeah,
kind of abrupt. She went from the sweetest, most, especially not with me. With me, I would have understood, like, mom's annoying now because I'm old, and like, shut up and don't tell me what to do. Because I think kids go through that, right? Like, I'm grown. What are you talking about? I live on my
yeah.
own. But like with
My
the kids,
12-year-old does that now.
yeah, right. My 10-year-old does it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And so I think with kids, it's like maybe that, but then she was like weird with the little kids, my little kids, and her and my son are like peas and carrots, and like they look more similar than any of my other kids, even though they have different dads, but they look more alike than any of the other kids because they look like me. And so they're close. They look the same, they act alike, they're so close. They've always been like just attached.
yeah,
And for her to do that with the kids, like on vacation, was really weird. She was kind of mean with him on that vacation, and she'd never done that before. And I actually got pissed. And I was like, you guys need to quit it. Like, because the two girls was kind of ganging up on my son who was like 8. And I was like,
yeah,
what? You guys are like, he was maybe 9 because she was like 11 and then my daughter was grown. And I was like, you guys are almost grown ass women. Cut it out. He's 8, almost 9, you know?
Yeah,
And it caught me as strange because she's usually coddles him, loves on him. That really caught me as strange. Like, what's happening here? You know,
yeah,
she was impatient with the baby, but then in your mind, you're like, well, she's not been home for a long time, like home, where she's living with children, right? Like maybe she just likes not having the kids around, hard to know. When you come from a big family like that, especially our family, we are the loudest people on the planet of the universe. Like it is horrible. And I mean, it's fine, but like I'm sure it's way different than what the quiet is at her place. So it was hard to read. Like, is it that? Or is it this? Or is it alcohol? It
yeah,
was like, but I did notice too, she forgot to call home quite a little bit for Easter and like holidays. She never done that before, ever. Like because of the little kids.
yeah,
Not for me, but they were still young. And that was weird. Like my baby was only like 3. She was little, like, I want to tell you what the Easter bunny got me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and she normally was so all about that. And she just completely didn't call. And then I was like, that pissed me off. That was one of our fights. And I was like, dude, okay, if you're busy, like 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, like talk to your brother and sister. Like I can wait, but like they're little and they don't get it, you
yeah,
know? And she just was like, oh, well, we were in a helicopter and we were doing helicoptery things and rich people shit. And
yeah.
that's what I said.
Well,
And I know that's rude. I shouldn't be rude. If you're rich out there, I mean,
yeah, if
I
you're
don't
flying
hate
in
you.
helicopters.
It's fine. I mean, I normally
Wow.
wouldn't be like that, but I think I was just mad, you
Yeah, of
know?
course, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that at a point, sometimes with money, I always pray for God to give me enough to be well, not wealthy, because there is a difference.
yeah.
And when people are
It can
extremely
change
wealthy,
people.
yeah, it's not always a good thing, I think.
Mm,
And I think a lot of this stuff, I mean, what does God say about that too? It's easier for to thread the needle with a camel than get a rich man in heaven. Like there's a reason why some of these verses are in there, you guys. Like
yeah,
it's not that if you're wealthy and you know how to manage it that that's a bad thing, but like honestly, I just think it comes with more temptation, right? Like
yeah.
it's more idle time, idle
Oh,
hands, you
yeah.
know.
Opens lot more doors and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. And banking money is always a worry. Like, then you get into like families, like, did she get into high society? Did she, and then you wonder about things like we're quite a lot younger than his parents, like a lot. Was that it? What I mean, you start thinking weird stuff like, is it because we would look different at the wedding because we got tattoos and like wouldn't fit in, or you know what I mean? I don't know.
yeah,
You
yeah,
start thinking about everything weird.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
it's
Of course,
hard.
well, you
It's
want
been hard.
answers. Ultimately, you want answers. You want to know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reasons, and
I
yeah,
Well, and you want to fix it because you're like, this is so unfair. What if this was you? If your son came to me and he all of a sudden didn't want to talk to you and just liked me and thought I was the bee's knees, I would not encourage anybody to do that. That's not Christ-like.
no,
Like, that's just not a good idea. It's bad. You
yeah,
cannot replace somebody's family. You can become somebody's family. And that's what I kept telling him was, hey, this isn't your family, her family. This is your family now, right? You're supposed to have one big family. And so that's what I would like. I would like your family to be my family and your parents to be my family and, like this and
yeah,
this and this. And they were very separate. They were like, no. And so first out, we saw that that wasn't going good,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I'm not saying best friends, just like, them. You
Go to
could go to a
parties.
birthday
Yeah, of
party.
course, how
Yeah,
it should be.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I even do that with my husband's ex-wife, for heaven's sake.
yeah,
And it's fine. You know what I mean? Other than when his family and her both together, that's too much. But like one or the other, that's fine.
yeah.
Just because it's not a good mixture. Yeah, that's not fun for me.
I hope
I'm
she
like,
doesn't.
I'm out.
I hope she doesn't
Yeah.
listen to the podcast.
If she does, she knows. And
Yeah,
I like her and I like them, but together it makes me anxious. It's just
yeah,
too
of
much.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not about either one of them. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is like a nightmare right here because they all have their problems way before I came around, you
yeah,
know? And so I'm like, leave me out of it. And I don't want to. Actually, I threw her a wedding. So when I am yeah. So after that whole thing happened with my daughter, I went through and apologized and really evaluated my life and decided whoever I had done something wrong to, including my other ex-husband's ex-wife, which was like from ever ago. Like she didn't even know who I was. She's like, "Who is this?" Like on Facebook, I was like, just saying sorry if I was a bitch before. Like and I'm sorry about it. And she was like, Heidi? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why would you even send me this? I'm like, because I was rude and I shouldn't have been rude. She had had a stroke and we were raising her daughter. And I raised her daughter from the time she was 3 till she was 13. And when we got a divorce, all of a sudden, I don't get to see this kid ever again. And so my other daughter knew that this would hurt me extremely because I used to always say that almost killed me. So she
yeah,
knew what she was going to do to me by
mhm,
abandoning us, because this other daughter had done that same thing. And
yeah,
it wasn't necessarily about me, but she just went with her dad. I had no rights. She didn't like X me off the planet because of any which reason. She was just a kid and had to go with her dad.
yeah,
And so it was really hard on me. That was really hard, but I didn't handle it good. And I was kind of rude. Like, how could you forget her birthday? Like, what's wrong with you? Like judgy, and rightly so sometimes. But here's the thing. What does it get you in the end? Makes the kid feel bad, makes the mom feel like crap. Like maybe the better way to be is like, hey, do you remember Thursday's her birthday? Like, like
yeah,
that. There's a better way. And so I
yeah.
learned,
It's difficult though.
yeah,
We're all living and learning, and we're all gonna
for
make
sure.
mistakes.
Still learning.
We're still learning.
Yes,
That's all part of it.
still
So,
learning. But
yeah,
yeah,
Carl, with
I
all
try
that,
to change it.
you're
Yeah.
still with all that like hardness. You're still such a happy person to talk to and good energy.
I try really hard because uh so my family when I was growing up after the whole abuse situation and my dad went to prison, my grandma took me and my grandpa was my I always say my grandma was almost like a missionary and my grandpa was on a mission to hell. I don't know. But he wasn't, but he was like a biker. And my uncle was biker, like they were in the sundowners and they were one
Oh
percenters.
wow!
This gets really weird.
So is that is that
And
is
so,
that like the Hell's Angels?
mhm,
Oh
yeah,
wow,
exactly like it, except one percenters are worse. And
man!
so they're like murders usually. But anyway, look up one percenter
Oh
bike
yeah,
gangs. But
I've heard of that. I've heard of that. But
so
yeah,
yeah, they're serious. If you watched Sons of Anarchy like that,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so when I watched that show, that was a really weird phenomenon for me because my husband is very, he grew up super beaver cleaver, like super normal Mormon guy. And I'm like this weird kid that had prison dad and like all this weird shit going on in my life. And like my grandma was the good one. So that's why I was like, I should be a Mormon because she's got her shit together. This lady, she's okay. But so anyway, long story short is I watched all these crazy things and I was like, this is really what happens. They say go to church. They say this, blah, 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 blah. And even last night we were watching something and it was a biker show and he's like, yeah, get his biker jacket. I'm like, they don't call it that. And I was like, they call it a cut.
Ah,
My husband was laughing so bad. He's like, some weird stuff. Or like I'll say, watch your six. And he didn't know what I was talking about.
what does that mean?
Oh, watch your back.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Oh,
but
man.
because behind, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cross. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's little stupid stuff that they would say. And I'm
Wow,
like, oh yeah, that's and as a kid,
wow.
you just grow up this way. But like that uncle he died really early. He was shot. And just like this crazy life. And when you grow up like that, you either go two ways. You either run toward it and become just like the people that are causing chaos, or you try to make it different. And I really tried. That was why I absorbed Mormonism so hard, because I was like, I'm going to go to the temple and I'm going to get married in the temple and I'm going to have a perfect life. And boy, was that the dumbest shit ever. Think I should have been a motorcycle gang. Oh
Wow,
no.
that would have been a different podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would have been weird, huh? That would have been in
Ah,
leathers and stuff. I don't know. But I mean, it's funny now to say that, but then as hard as they were, these people in my life, like my uncle was like the best guy ever. Like he was secretly softy and sweet and nice, but only
yeah.
to me, like probably not with other people.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
like, I mean, you learn, you see the things and you just learn. I knew one thing, I wasn't going to be doing drugs because my family or drinking a lot, because that's just not the way.
Yeah.
You got to keep all that in check. Not that I never have a drink, but I knew
Mhm.
drinking was not a good idea. Like getting, being
Yeah.
drunk a lot and
Yeah.
stuff, because that also opens up doors. You have to be really careful of balance. It's not about a drink. It's
Hmm.
about, when you have a problem. Like
Yeah.
you already
When
know.
it's too
And
much.
each one of us, yeah, we all know what our thing is, whatever that
Hmm.
thing is that can get you to like open bad doors, whether it's love or alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever. But it's always going to be there. And you have to learn to like, no, I'm not going down this weird road,
Yeah. That's something that
and
we all have to deal with
yeah,
as people, I guess.
yep. You have to just grow. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to learn. And every day I still learn more. And hopefully, maybe someday she'll come back and want to know the new me, because she's not the only one that changed,
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be cool
But
if she listens to Let's Get Freaky, and maybe she might.
yeah, it would be
You
cool.
never
I
know.
think so. Well, that's why I always like to get my work. And a lot of times I'll repost things because
Hmm.
maybe she will hear it.
Yeah.
And, I think that's one thing that really kind of irked him, was that when I started the podcast, he can't stop her. How are you going to stop her?
No,
Yeah, I'm
because
on all the
podcasts
things.
are
I'm on
that's the
YouTube, I'm
yeah,
on Apple, I'm on
Spotify.
wherever. Yep.
There's
You
so many
can't.
different places that the show airs, and
Yep.
yeah, and it's free.
Maybe
Anyone
she'll
can
hear
listen.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe she'll hear it. And if she does, I hope she knows, like I said, moms don't quit.
Hmm.
My door is open. Like, I'm not going to blame you and be like, you're a bad person. Look at what you did. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, eventually you have to have a talk, because you can't just shove stuff under a rug, because that's also not healthy.
Mm.
Passive aggressive is almost more poisonous, because the people that go bonkers and kill people, they'll always say, like, he was the nicest guy. And
Yeah.
then he's
That's
eating
always the
people in
way.
his
Yeah.
apartment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeffrey
That's,
Dahmer was a super nice guy, but
yeah. We all know that
yeah,
story.
yeah. Yeah, we got to make sure and deal with stuff in an appropriate way and be adults, but also at the same time, I that would not be at the forefront of my mind if I saw her right now and she walked in
Yeah.
my door. I would
Yeah.
just like the prodigal son, you would just be so happy to
Yeah.
see him,
Well, I
and
really hope and pray that that happens for you. And I really, I think it will. I think in the future you will reconnect somehow for sure.
maybe someday we'll be able to show
Yeah,
people we did, because
yeah,
that would be a blessing. And even if she didn't want me to talk about it or anything, that's fine too. But I just, I just hope so, because what she didn't realize was she didn't just hurt me. She destructed the family. She changed my son. He's never been the same. Whether or not she understands that, she hurt him. I mean, me and my ex husband were so cool and so good to each other. We literally both said, you know what? We both come from a divorced family and we didn't want to hurt our kid. So we were like, we're going to make sure that we don't hurt our kid,
yeah,
and we were friends, and we were like, when his wife died, I was right there to help him clean out his house, do anything that was going to be painful for him, like any of that. Like, we were bonded over my son. And also, he still adopted my daughter after 18, because my ex-husband wouldn't do it. He wouldn't sign. But he loved her so much that he was like, "I'll wait then."
yeah,
And we were so good to him about abandonment, because we both had abandonment issues, right? And so then this happens and he has these horrible abandonment issues. And so she doesn't understand that this affected a lot of people, not just me, but my mom, my husband, my kids. Like a lot of people were really small. Like my little daughter just kept asking forever because she was so small and young. Like, where's Ceci? Where's my sissy?
Mm.
You know, where'd she go? And I'm
Ah,
like, how do you explain? And then I'm just
yeah.
hysterical,
It's so difficult.
like
It's so
every
difficult.
year, that first year, I just, every time
Yeah.
she'd do that, it was just a nightmare,
Can imagine. Yeah.
And
Oh
she
man.
does talk to the little ones a little bit now. They are all allowed to do whatever. I wouldn't block that. That's weird. Like, I encourage it if anything, but the littlest one, she has to have supervision because I'm like, I don't know. There's some weird trust issues there. I don't want her knowing her whole life,
Yeah.
not right now. I mean, later, but
Yeah.
I don't want her saying the wrong thing. Like, mom says you have a demon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what she would say, but who
Yeah.
knows? Whatever.
In
But hopefully it will work.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's all we have.
In the job,
God and hope.
100%. In the job that you do, have you come across a lot of people that possibly got attachments?
Demonized.
Yeah.
hmm You can feel it, and they can feel it, and they know it with me because I have a rosary on my hand. I have a rosary tattooed on my hand. I don't know if people can
Yeah,
see
that's
that, but
cool. Yeah.
so they know immediately that I'm a Christian at least.
Hmm.
And there's something about a spirit of that sort, even if it doesn't live inside of someone, it knows and it will hate you. There's a Bible verse about this that says like they even hate your stench, right? Like if you're a Christian and it's not a Christian thing. And
Mm.
you can tell when the people have an actual mental illness, like a real true mental illness, and when it's not that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just feel it, and I've been attacked and different things, and just you can feel it, and you can almost feel it bubbling underneath the surface, like it's not good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Do you think the person that's got the attachment knows that they've got that attachment?
Sometimes I think sometimes they are so convinced that it's all medical, and I do think a lot of it can be medical. I think a lot
Hmm.
of it can be vitamin deficiencies, imbalances, like different hormones that shouldn't be in things that are, but I think that the doctors are just so closed-minded to that the people that might need help. I mean, what is the whole Bible about? It's like Jesus coming here and delivering a bunch of people and talk about the word. Like that's it. Like that's the
Hmm.
whole thing in a nutshell, and then being our savior, right? So they don't want to do that anymore, right? That's like a no-no. You can't even talk about it. You can't even, and that's why I like Derek Prince so much because his whole ministry was about deliverance, and John Ramirez as well. And John Ramirez has some really amazing self-deliverance books. Now, do I think you can always do it by yourself? Not always. No. If it's bad enough, I think you need help, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I have seen many, many cases and where you can just be like, whoa, what was that? And the person doesn't even know. They're like, what? Like, and they
Yeah.
might have just done something crazy, crazy. And you're like, why did you just try to shove your head through the window or whatever? And then they're like, can I have a sandwich? And I'm like, sure. Like, what? And they're like, please,
Wow.
like, may I please have a sandwich? And you're just standing there like, yeah,
Yeah.
let me
That must be
hold
so
on.
difficult. It must be so
It's
difficult to
weird.
to be in that situation. And you're obviously
That's
in
a
that
hard
situation quite a
situation.
lot because
Yeah, yeah. It's I deal more with PTSD and veterans. At this point, we have 3 floors of veterans and active duty military that have PTSD and or some sort of trauma, and then also NSA, FBI. Hi guys,
yeah.
if you, I'm definitely on a list. Um,
100%.
yeah. Well, and somebody's got to do it. So
Yeah, for
them
sure.
and then detox. So a lot of detoxers, which I
Hmm.
chose to do after my brother died of the overdose because we missed it. We weren't as diligent as we would have liked to be with him. And now we know. And now we see like things better. And so if I can help somebody else with that same thing, and even sometimes just telling the story will help people. Like, they'll be like, well, this day was just so bad. And, maybe I want to leave. And I'm like, well, you should really think about that because, there are worse things than this day.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's good to have another day like tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you have to be really careful. And I do pray for them, but not with them unless they ask. And they have to initiate it because you can get in big trouble, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
Have you seen
but
anyone that's clearly got an attachment, and have you seen them beat it? Have you ever experienced that?
we're short term. So I never
Okay.
get to know. Yep. At the maximum, we have 30-day people because they have to go somewhere else. And so,
Hmm.
but the people that are really sick, like schizophrenic, where you would see that are really short stay, like maybe 5 days
Okay.
because they have to go to the bigger hospitals like the state mental hospital or a group home or something, so we never get to see them change that much unless it's really been some extenuating circumstance where they're court ordered to be there, which happens a lot of times. The people that we get are brought in by the police and or ambulance. So that's like a pink sheet, white sheet, or blue sheet. That's the three. And a white sheet is only done after a judge signs it. And so that's
Okay.
really serious. That's when you have to like hold them down and give them meds like against their will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that happens because some people won't take meds. And so, yeah, they have shots for that. So that's good.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is drastic, even with that. Like if we can get them, they have like antidepressant shots now that last 30 days. And once it gets in their system, it takes some time. And then you'll see a very good change within days. And you're like, wow, you just needed that. I mean, you're completely better. You're completely less paranoid or different. Man, was 2020 a wild ride, though. I never had so
I
many
can
people
imagine.
naked outside, naked and outside. I'm telling you, people, you don't need to take your clothes off if the rapture happens. It's fine. The clothes will figure it out themselves. Don't do that. If you're naked on your roof or naked in your yard, somebody is calling the police
Yeah.
and they're bringing you to me. So, and that happened so much during 2020. I was like, but why the naked? And
Yeah.
I'm like, you probably could have been okay if you didn't take all your clothes off. The neighbors might not have noticed, like waiting for God to come. And it was sad. That was a
Yeah.
really horrible thing that they did to people because they broke people that
Yeah.
weren't broken.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
have people that come a lot, like frequent flyers is what we call them, because we know that they're going to be there, like, see you next month, George. Like, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But like these were people that didn't belong. They were normal people, like normal moms, normal dads that just lost it because
Yeah.
it was too
That's
much. It
that's
was
what 2020
scary.
did. That's what to so
Yeah.
many people. It was a
It was
horrible,
terrifying.
horrible time. And
Yeah. I
I
think a
think to
lot
be
of
honest, there's
people were
still
scared.
a backlash, massive backlash from
Hmm.
that as well,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
might
And
not
scared.
be put
So
right.
much
Well,
fear.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I don't think it will change. I
no,
think that was their point because just like substances,
hmm,
just like alcohol or drugs or something, and I'm not saying never do a drug. Like if you're in pain or you have a bad back or you have something wrong with you, but it is about your intention, right? Are you doing it to get high or are you doing it to get better? Are you minding the rules or are you doing something weird?
yeah,
Are you if you're taking it via your nose, you've gone over the line. So, or some other weird way, unless it's meant to be that way. Some headache medicine is that way. But let's be honest, you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it. Then the choice is why do you do that and how do you make it stop? But once you
hmm,
open the door, any door that like I said, pornography could be something so insidious, could be a horror movie, could be something dumb, but it
mm,
it all depends on your mind, right?
yeah,
It's all
yeah,
about the mind of the person because some of us, like me, I have to read some crazy stuff to prepare some of the stuff I do, like occult things that I would not tell people to read. I would say, no, you can listen to a podcast about that. You
yeah,
don't need that book at your house. I refuse to buy Crowley's books. I won't do it.
yeah, for sure.
I'll read it. I'll read it online or whatever, but I'm not bringing that in my house
Yeah,
for reasons. But there's some stuff that you just don't want to play with because it does open you
mm-hmm,
up. It can. I'm not
100%.
saying I'm not saying everything is demon attachment either. I'm just saying be
Hmm.
careful with yourself.
Yeah. But when you
It's
look in, especially the subjects you look into as well, It's
Yeah,
dangerous stuff, and you go
it's
down some
scary.
rabbit holes that
Oh,
will change you forever when you see
and
this
some of
stuff.
them are true, and some
Yeah.
of them are true, but you have to be able to handle it. Like
Hmm.
this happened with my stepson, and he shares, so I share a little bit, but he got really paranoid and he slipped into a psychosis
Hmm.
and he couldn't get out. And he doesn't like talking conspiracies or any of that anymore because it gets him there.
Yeah.
And it was mixed with alcohol and drugs, fueled, and it wasn't good combinations. That's the other thing you have to study. Like if you microdose, you have to be careful about other things you're doing. You can't just willy-nilly be drinking and smoking weed either. Like if it's even natural stuff, you still have to be careful. Like you can't just be doing whatever you want, and you
Yeah.
can't you have to prepare for these things. Like I only know because they use that as medicine now a lot of times. Even MDMA, even mushrooms, even all these things, they tell the people you can't mix this with this or blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Ketamine, even they do, but like there's a protocol for everything. And you can't just say, well, I'm just doing this for a great time and I'm going to do it with this and this and that. No, you can't. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got to deal with this in a different way. It's medication at that point. So you have to do what they say. And that's, you guys know too, sometimes you even have to do what they don't say. Like there's
Hmm.
one medicine I can only take 1/4 of what everybody else takes because it makes me really sick.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
everything affects us differently. Like even with foods,
definite.
with everything,
Mm-hmm.
everything
Everything.
affects everyone differently.
Yep.
And it's just managing
Yep.
how how it
Figure
affects
out,
you.
yep, and what you're susceptible to. But the main thing I tell people is put that armor of God on. It takes 2 minutes.
Hmm.
People say, oh, I don't have time to pray or this. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Two things that saved my life a million times, I truly believe, is the Lord's Prayer,
Hmm.
because you can memorize it and you don't have to really talk. Now, that isn't a good prayer to get to know the Lord, but that is a good prayer for like, help me. I need help. And like, if I'm in a snowstorm and I can't think because I'm scared and I'm trying to drive and my kids are talking and the music's on and everything's happening and I'm terrified to die, I don't want to crash my car. I will repeat that prayer in my mind because it's simple, it's easy, and it's redundant. That also doesn't open you up to a real relationship with God. However, He hears it, He knows you, He knows your heart. Don't be lazy. That's for that situation only, right? So that one, and putting on the armor of God. It takes two
Hmm.
seconds to say, Dear God, thank you for this day. I put the armor of God upon me. Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. Name of Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Amen. I mean, it doesn't take a long time. And if we spend how many hours watching TV? We spend how many hours doing menial, stupid stuff? Like,
Hmm.
really dumb,
Yeah. Yeah.
waste of time. I mean, I even got to the point in 2020 where I was like, I'm going to teach my kids how to crochet. Even my son. My son is the best crocheter of the world. He's 6'1". He played
Yeah.
hockey forever. He's this big dude and he crochets and
That's
he's really
awesome.
good. He's really good at it. He was so good at it. I'm like, why are you so good at this? And so I'm like, and his dad was like, you ruined my son. Like, what are you doing? You know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, he's good at it. Knock it off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
And if you
he was
enjoy
a
it,
little
that's all that
man.
matters.
Yeah. Well, my son's like, it helps me de-stress. It's good.
Yeah.
I like it. And I'm like, yeah. So there. But like his dad was, he's a guy. I get it.
Yeah.
But
He wants him
like,
to be the hockey man.
yeah, and
Yes.
and it's okay. But like here's the thing. At the end of the day, if you're doing something like that, even coloring a picture, you're
Hmm.
creating something. What are
Yeah.
you creating watching TV? Nothing.
Oh, not a lot.
What are you creating when you're just sitting, right? I mean, that's why
Mm.
our ancestors did things like gardening or, drawing or painting or
Yeah.
philosophy writing.
Writing. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's things like that that make your mind grow,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
then when you read the scriptures after your mind, how I told you at first, I was like just kind of monotonously reading it. But then now I'm like, I'll pray really hard about something and then I'll flip the Bible open and I'm like, well, there's the answer. Thank you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I've read this before and this didn't mean the same thing, right? I read this
Yeah.
verse, say, a month ago and it
Yeah.
didn't mean anything to me, but now it does. Why? Because it's the living word and God can only talk to us how we're willing to listen. Like,
Yeah.
there's only so much he can do if you're not answering the phone. Like he's like calling. It's like it's like he's calling, and you're just like, send it to voicemail,
Yeah,
you know?
that's fair.
It's not, yeah, it's not about church. It's not about, and they will hate, I don't know, the religious people will hate this, but when I learned to love the Lord and really learn about God was when I learned to not be religious. And I know that, oh, sorry, my dog.
That's
And I
cool.
know that sounds crazy, but it's
The
true.
dog didn't like
It's
that.
yeah, well, somebody knocked on the door, but he's like, no, mom's in danger.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's true. And get an animal if you can. If you don't have anybody in your life and you can have an animal, get an animal.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. They really are a blessing. I mean,
100%.
even though he's loud, he
Yeah.
was my guy. And we got him during all that disaster of 2020, and he's my guy. I never
Yeah.
had a dog that I loved like that before, but yeah,
Dogs are
he changed
amazing.
it.
Dogs are
He
amazing.
changed me. Yeah.
I've got a pup as well. Well, he's a year old now, and he's
Oh,
awesome. Yeah.
they're just
Hard work,
they
harder
just
work than the
love
kids,
you.
to be
Hard
honest.
work. Yes, hard work. Because it's another thing. It's
Yeah.
like one more thing you got to do because the kids aren't going to do
And he
it, you
craps
know?
everywhere in the yard, and then and there's
Yeah. It's so messy. It's messy, but at the end of the day, they will always be there, like right there. And the
yeah.
love that they have, it's just like
Oh yeah.
there's no wonder why it's God backwards, right? That's why
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
100%.
that's why.
Oh, I I've loved talking to you tonight. It's been so
I like it so much.
we've not even got to the
We'll get
Nephilim.
back to the Nephilim.
We're
The
gonna have to
Nephilim will
do
come.
another
Yes, we'll
show
do it.
if you don't mind
Yes,
coming back.
no, no, of course. And I got this big book here, Gary Wayne's book.
Oh wow.
This thing, this has all about the Nephilim. It's got like 800 pages.
Wow.
So, the Genesis 6 conspiracy. I like this book. I also
Interesting.
recommend Ryan Pitterson's book on Judgment of the Nephilim and Gary's second book, almost as big. I think it's like 650. I can't remember. Just dropped. So that's on
Wow.
Amazon. So I highly recommend all of those books for people that are looking into it and all of L.A. Marzulli's work as well
Yeah, for
with the
sure.
Watchers.
For sure.
He's really good. So
Well,
that's what
Heidi,
and we'll get to that. We'll do that too.
next time you're on, we're gonna do
Yes.
the Nephilim. We're going to
We'll do
get
the
into
Nephilim.
that because it's super interesting. But
Oh
thank
yes.
you so much for sharing more of
Of
your story
course.
tonight.
Yeah, I don't mind.
You've talked about very difficult subjects, which I'm sure is not easy to talk about. So
No,
appreciate you
it's
coming on and
okay.
being
Yeah,
so
it's
open.
okay. That's why I'm unfiltered. And if I can help like one person that's where I was or whatever, going through the same stuff, like that's the whole reason why I do this, or I wouldn't do
Yeah,
this. You don't bare your soul for no reason.
yeah,
Like the
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
and
but we gotta all be like good with each other. We just if I can encourage your listeners to do anything, you gotta learn some grace. We gotta learn some love because the
yeah,
one commandment that was not hung on the cross was love one another. Well, let's
yeah,
figure that out.
yeah, for sure. And
Yep,
I really hope this has a happy ending with your
me
daughter
too.
and it gets sorted.
Yeah,
Uh,
any prayers I would
Yeah,
highly love. Thank you
100%.
so much.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes,
Heidi,
thank you.
thank
Well,
you
I'll be back. Yes.
so much. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you
Yep,
before you go?
of
And
course. Yeah. We'll schedule it up for the Neff
yeah, for
later.
sure.
Yes. So I'm Heidi Love at the Unfiltered Rise. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have a Patreon, and instead of cutting my episodes short, I give you 2 extra episodes a month, and they are all about murders, mayhem, and Mormons. And they go into some weird, even Charlie Chaplin knew a Mormon murderer. So there's
Interesting.
also a Nazi one that we just got done doing that was really weird. I mean,
Wow.
weird. I had no idea. The guy that I do this with, he's with the Hellfire Agency, and we do it together. I'm a Christian ex Mormon, and he's an atheist ex Mormon. So we have a fun time.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a cool
Yeah, so it's
combo.
a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't like one, you'll probably like the other.
That's awesome. I will
Oh,
share the links. Will be in the show description.
awesome.
Heidi,
Yes.
thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much. I'm looking
You
forward to
bet.
talking to you again and getting you
All
back on
right.
Let's Get
We'll
Freaky.
schedule it up. Yeah, you
Stay
bet.
safe.
Have a good one.
God
You
bless.
too.
And I'll speak
God
to you
bless.
soon. Thank you,
Bye
guys.
bye.
See you later.